Burning streets where the wild things meet. Fast lane rebel cries, we're chasing the highs. In the dark of night, our lights collide. Electric dreams, we're alive. Going for the night, we're born to roam in the field service life, where the thrill of the chase cuts like a knife. We're born to rise in the fire and the strife. Gasoline veins, adrenaline high, breaking free.
All right, welcome to episode 5 of the Field Service Life podcast. I'm really excited for the guest we got today, Paul Peterson. He is a legend in this industry. I'm really excited that he joined us on this podcast today. Paul, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Paul Peterson. I've worked in this industry now for going on 20 years. And I have a very unique background, kind of fell into this industry a little bit, as most of us have. And I've had a very unconventional path towards along my career trajectory. And I currently work at JLL. I'm on the global platform team for data centers and critical environments, primarily supporting all of our critical accounts and performing assessments, site assessments, compliance assessments, risk evaluations, and building out our platform and playbook standards and policies globally. So that's kind of what I'm working on with my team. So a lot of exposure throughout my career to a lot of different facets of the industry, a lot of different roles. And I've been with small companies, big companies, and I've worked across the country. So it's
Sounds like a lot.
it's been a journey to
For
say
sure.
the least. But I was very much
So,
part of the field industry. I was a field engineer for years, so it was a good fitting podcast for me.
absolutely. That's why my radar went off when I was thinking, I was like, who can I get on here? I really hope he'd say yes. So I'm glad that you did. So aside from your main career that you're doing here at JLL, you're in a lot of other things, right? You're involved in the 7x24 and
Yeah.
um, what's that? The Nomad. Um, what is it?
Um,
Nomad
yeah.
Futurist.
Yep. Nomad Futurist. Yep. Yeah. So I try to partake in a lot of the industry in organizations, primarily the ones that focus on building strength network, education, expanding basically the knowledge of the industry and getting that out there. Because it's a very unique industry, right? It's very hidden. It's not very front facing when you talk to the average person. You say, I work in the data center industry. They're like, oh, so you do data analytics or so, they don't, it doesn't click. It's like, well, no, you're on your phone, right? Well, that's connected to a data center. They don't put two and two together a lot of times. So, a lot of these organizations are focused on getting the word out, spreading the word about the industry, and especially into some of the younger generations, right? The next generation of operators, designers, so talking to the different school programs, talking to trade schools. I got into that initially because I was a trades guy initially. I went to school for electronics. And so for me, being able to go back after, this long career that I've had and sit down with students that, I was in the same boat, right? I wasn't a great academic. I tried college. It wasn't for me. I went back to trades and, I kind of found a niche and then I grew within the industry. It's hard to come out of a trade or come out of any school really and be able to bridge that gap between what you learn in school, what you think you want to do, and then getting into a role. There's like a big gray area there. And I've talked to kids who, graduated MIT with honors. And I've talked to kids that come out of a trade school for 1 year for electronics. They have the same gray area. It doesn't matter what what you went to school for, they still have a hard time bridging that gap, finding the right avenue. And I feel like a lot of that has to do with there's not a strong set of guidance, whether it's people at the school or I went to the career center at my college. I didn't get anything out of that. I mean, it was very hard to pursue and figure out what I wanted to do. And they tell you to start thinking about that in high school. In high school, my focus was my car and when my next baseball game was. So it's a hard thing to think about, to wrap your head around where. So, I think it's important to build, your network from a very young age, connect with the right people, find a mentor, that kind of thing. So that's why I got involved with 7x24 initially, was for that reason. Plus to help build my own network and expand my knowledge of the industry, right? Um, so that's how um, they have trying to push the understanding of the industry and that it's out there, and they also are developing. They actually partnered with JLL. They're using our technical development program as a basis for a free education program that have access to for students who are maybe pursuing this path. They'll be able to access it and learn from that database for free, which is pretty amazing,
Yeah,
and
for sure.
definitely much needed. We're headed into a time in this industry now where something like 60% of the operators out there are approaching retirement age. And, a lot of the critical risk evaluations I've done at a lot of our legacy accounts are, very old, large scale clients, have to do, the risk focus has to do with succession planning and building out a way to get that tribal knowledge transitioned to the newer generation of operators. And it's very hard to do. People are set in their ways, and sharing knowledge back in, if you go back 30 years, 25, 30 years, that wasn't really a big push, right? I mean, you're a field engineer, right? You've been
Yep.
in the field for a while. You talk to the old school guys, right? They don't, it, sharing knowledge was gold, man. You had security if you knew how to do something specific.
Right.
And so to get that knowledge shared was not really a big thing back then. It was hard to obtain it. So when you had a mentor or somebody that you could really feed off of, I mean, you had to grab onto that and soak it up, right? And I was very fortunate in my career path that I came across several people in the field that when I worked that were willing to share and wanted to see me succeed and grow. And that really helped cultivate my career. So coming from that, I want to do that, right? I want to provide that transfer of knowledge from myself to the next generation, right?
That's honorable. Any names you want to drop on that those mentors?
Oh man. My mentor, who I consider my primary mentor, was John Balsamo. He
Oh
was
wow.
he was a phenomenal, I mean,
Great
still
dude.
he's an unbelievable mind. He's just sharp as a tack. I'd work with guys that were in the field for 30 years, ex-Navy nukes. We'd be working on a complex issue that we could not come to terms with what was going on. And I'd call him, he'd give me 25 more things to check. And I mean, he's that kind of mind, right? And he taught me everything from the ground up when I came out of school. I didn't know what three-phase power was, and I sat with him, went through manuals, schematics, ripped apart, units to the frame and rewired them, and board adjustments, and live field changeouts and stuff like that, commissioning, everything. I mean, it was a hell of an education, and very, you know, I owe him a lot for that. I mean, it's hard to find nowadays. So
Yeah, he's a very sharp dude. I've only known him for a few years, and I 100% agree. And I'm kind of jealous that I didn't have that kind of mentor as good. I've had a few, never somebody as
Yeah.
smart as him. He's incredible.
Yeah.
Um, so one of the things that you were mentioning is, the people coming out of MIT and people coming out of trade school, and they're having trouble in that gray area trying to figure out where their career is. And it's crazy that we're in an industry where we can't find people. So you
Yeah.
have people that can't find what they want to do, and us who can't find people, and we're doing our best to get it out there. It's crazy.
Yes. Yes. It's amazing how when you look at the situation from the 30,000 foot view, it looks so simple, right? But when I dive into it and I have conversations with other companies, with colleagues of mine, we're all scratching our head going, why is this so difficult? And I keep leaning back to that build your network at a young age, right? And a couple of examples of where I've seen it be very successful is every year we have a Christmas party. 7 by 24 Metro hosts a Christmas party. They have a scholarship program that they run where they have a competition between some pretty key schools in the New York area, and they invite the students to the party, right? Some of the graduates and
Nice.
that. So I met two young gentlemen, and I was very, very impressed with them. Their demeanor, their work ethic, just their poise of how they came off in an environment where they're surrounded by experts, right? I mean, that party is well known for having some of the industry's best, right, in that area. And I mean, they were having very sophisticated conversations with us. They came off really well. And I started talking to them a little bit. And I got introduced to them because somebody else knew my background, my career, and thought I would be a good fit to talk to them about the industry and different things. And I found out that they took it upon themselves to reach out and create a student 7 by 24 chapter within the
Huh.
school, which was great because now they've got a direct line to the 7 by 24 Metro, which is a bunch of experts, right? And these
Wow.
guys, everybody, these men and women are constantly around all and exposed to all these different accounts, clients. So it's that word of mouth of, I know you're looking for a new engineer, or you're looking for a designer, or this, that. I talked to the student, he came off really, I was really impressed, right? That's how you start connecting dots.
Right.
That fills the gray area, right? And one of the kids just graduated. He's already got a job. He's got an internship lined up, or had an internship lined up, and then they hired him, pretty much right out of school. So I mean, it just shows like building that network early on, right? Having that, it really should be a part of your curriculum. Creating a LinkedIn page, understanding how to build resumes, how to translate what you're doing and the effect of what you're doing in your career, and then get it out there, right? It's hard sometimes. You want to stay humble with what you're doing, but when you're building your resume and you're putting your LinkedIn profile out there and you're communicating with these people, that's your time to beat your chest a little bit. If you've done the work, right, you want to go out there and you want to have the confidence in your abilities. So you want to go out and you want to toot your horn. You know what I mean? This is what I've accomplished. This is what my goals are. This is where I'm headed. That passion and drive comes through. It comes through in interviews and, just overall your network that you build. So you got to have confidence in your abilities. And really, I think until you get the exposure like that to a network where you're surrounded by people in the room that are all smarter, tons of experience, knowledge, right? That's when you start to evaluate your self-worth
Right.
and you start to build that confidence. So super important. I think that, you know, I went up to 7 by 24's New England's chapter. They had a youth event where everybody was basically had less than 10 years in the industry. I think it might even been less than that. It might have been less than 5 or something. But um, people that were just starting out in companies, had just getting their feet wet in the industry. And I had some great conversations with those folks. And most of them were 4-year degree program, graduates. So they were in design, they were in commissioning, a couple PEs. I met one kid from MIT who was he was actually still in school, but finishing up, and he was working on sand style concrete batteries. And basically, they figured out a way to build a building, and the concrete used in the building was actually a battery and could
Huh.
store a massive amount of energy. It was very impressive, the conversation. And I was like, man, that you guys are literally shaping the future of the industry. And I said to him, I went over and I said, have you guys reached out to any prefab concrete companies? And he almost took the words like out of my mouth as I was saying it. He goes, our next step, that's basically their next steps, is they're actually working with a couple prefab companies on prefab concrete panels that have this technology built in. And I'm like, well, that's the data centers all day long, man. I mean, if we could figure out how to store power in the walls of the building,
Wow.
it's a game changer. So, that kind of conversation, right? So perfect example, right? How it's twofold, it's forward and back, these the network and how it benefits people. I went there to share my experiences, and I'm learning from these kids, right? They're coming out with this technology, and they're exposed to things that we've never seen before. And now I've created a relationship there, right? And I can reach back out and say, hey, I heard about this. I got another company that's looking to do something similar, and you start bridging gaps. That's how business is done, man.
Right.
You start building upon those relationships. So super cool.
You've also got me wondering now. I wonder if that's what the Egyptians were doing with the pyramids, storing the power in the walls, you know?
Man, there's so much that we don't know about that and all that technology they had back then. That I don't know. We'll tap into it eventually. I saw that picture with the structure on Mars.
Underneath.
Somebody said they saw like bricks. See that? And
Yeah, I
I
saw
was
lots.
like, oh man, look at this. We're gonna find Egyptian on Mars. It's gonna be crazy. But yeah, you never know. You never know. Way the technologies, it's amazing, some of this stuff. And we're in an industrial revolution right now. It's like the locomotive just got invented with AI, man. It's crazy. Where we're
Absolutely.
headed, the market, the things that are going on, and what I'm seeing in these different companies with expansion and growth, and I mean just the money, the financials being thrown at this infrastructure. It's unbelievable. It's exciting times, really fun. It's such a fun industry, man, and it keeps you on your toes, for sure, which is
Absolutely.
cool. So
So we'll stay on that with the AI. Are you utilizing it at all to help make your life a little easier?
every day, every day. So I'm very fortunate within JLL. We have an AI tool. It's a form of GPT that they built within the company. So it's very secure, and it uses our internal database as its preference for associating data and correlating whatever the commands are. So it works amazing. It really works well. And right now, I think a lot of people are using it more as an admin function. We're not necessarily getting to the point. We're not at the point quite yet where we're doing analytics or we're using it for like data trending. And you can do some of that. It does pull out some of that information and it's able to do some of that. But what's very exciting is they're staying very ahead of the curve, and they are starting to talk about implementing agentics. Now, I went to an AI conference recently, and I was very fortunate. I got to sit down with some data scientists and some people that are way smarter than me, and kind of talk through what agentic functionality is with AI and where it applies and how you can utilize it. And they gave us an example. They actually demoed an example. The company was Data IQ, and they demoed an example where they put together agentic tools that simulated what the process was for a real estate owner, let's say a New York high-rise owner, to find to advertise apartments, and then have a real estate agents put it to market, a broker make the deal, and then list the property, find candidates that were qualified with the right credit score and history and all that kind of stuff. It did it in 10 minutes. I mean, they walked us through the process slowly. It probably could have done it in 5 minutes, but it I mean, found out the pricing comparatively. It built the ad, put the ad out. It's automatically found candidates from a pool for with qualified references, brought it back to the real estate owner, got verification approval, sent out the contracts, and then actually shipped a bottle of champagne to the successful candidate, congratulating them on their new rental property. I mean, it did it in 10 minutes. I mean, this
Wow.
is stuff I've talked to real estate buddies of mine that this takes a month to put together. It did in 10 minutes. So when you see that kind of stuff right in front of your face and you realize the impact of that, now you start realizing like we're in a whole nother world here. I mean, this is business on a fast track. So um I tell people all the time, you get a lot of mixed signals about AI, right? I've spoken on panels about this with regards to data centers specifically, but even in the general population, right? I talk to my parents, AI, right? Immediately they talk about what do you call
Terminator and
Terminator, right? It's oh, we're Terminator or it's the Matrix, all this stuff, right? And that's not really what it is. It's not how it works. You know what I mean? There's several different variations of it. Um, and the big thing is people don't understand what they don't know, right? They don't know anything about it, so they fear it. It's very
right.
common, right? It's just typical human nature. Um, and one of the discussion points I had with somebody was, well, now these students are writing essays with AI, and it's not right, it's not fair to the people that got degrees and this and that. And I said, well, listen, I said, let me well, let's just go back in history here and think about this for a second. Years ago, I was told we had to do all of our math longhand. We had to write it all out. We had to, do all the calculations, right?
Yep.
You're an engineer. Use a calculator when you do your math, right? Or do you write everything out by hand? There's very
Never.
few people I know that are sitting there writing this out by hand. They're using a calculator, they're using a computer, we're using formula templates in Excel, right, to do some complicated solutions. What the difference is, we have the tool now, right? And for a long time when I went to school, oh no, you can't trust the calculator. Well, what the hell? Like,
You're not going to have one
it's very
in your pocket when
so
you're an adult. They were wrong.
exactly. Yeah, now we've got it on the phone. We can pull right out, boom, boom, boom. We do some calculations. We can even pull up complex calculate algorithmic functions on the computer and do what we got. There's all different things, right? So my argument with them was, listen, do you do your bills when you do your bills and you sit down, you're running your budgets and you're reconciling things? Do you use a calculator? 99% of the time, the answer is yes. They might tell me no because they want to be a hard ass, but
Right.
realistically, they're using a calculator. So I say to them, it's the same thing. AI is a tool. Okay, it's just a tool. So what we should be teaching these kids in these school curriculums is how to utilize the tool the right way, right? In an ethical way to improve their product and help them to learn, right? The best part about AI, in my opinion, is being able to go on and you can ask it and things and learn things, specific topics about stuff that you might not have a clue, right? The average person, I lived on Google. I mean, second Google came out, I just soaked up as much information. Now, some of it wasn't right, some of it's you got to vet it, right? But you become really good if you use it a lot. You become real good at understanding how to reference your information. Is it right? All that kind of stuff, right? AI is the same idea. Once you understand how it works, you understand how it's processing things, you can use it to your advantage. It becomes a very powerful tool, saves you a lot of time, and it gives you a lot of good starting points, and you can kind of manipulate things. And when you get into agentics and some of the analytical properties that it can do, and you start talking about now the data center industry, where we have limited manpower, limited resources for operations, now you start saying, you know what, we could implement some of this stuff to do analytics and forecast failures. Right now, you start getting into preventative failure analysis, preventative risk analysis, maintenance requirements. Maybe we don't have to do our batteries at 5 years because it's going to look at load trending. It's going to look at discharge timing. It's going to look at efficiency curve of utility over time. It's going to take all these other factors into play where traditionally it was like, okay, it's been 5 years, time to change batteries, right? So you start looking at cost savings, you start looking at efficiency models and risk mitigation, all built in around this. So will we ever get to fully automated data centers? I don't think so. I don't think it'll ever happen. Every data center company I've talked to says absolutely not. There's always going to be a human element behind what's going on. Now, are we going to implement some automation? Absolutely.
Yeah.
We have to. We don't have the manpower to cover the deficit we're going to have because of the expansion curve in the industry and the lack of personnel, right? It's just too big of a delta right now. And unless we have more people doing what you and I are doing, talking to these schools, trying to get the word out there, we're never going to close that gap. So that's my take on AI right now. But man, it's awesome to use.
Absolutely. All right, let's go back to you for a minute. You've got a lot of certifications on your LinkedIn profile that I grabbed and threw in here. So I wanted to run through those and just let you explain them a bit so people who don't know what they mean. So you got one CRL, Certified Reliability Leader.
Yeah.
What does that entail?
Yep. So that's a program that I went through. I got invited to partake in it through JLL, and it focuses around reliability leadership and reliability maintenance processes. So it's very strategically process oriented, and they have a very specific structure of how you identify risk and mitigate risk through your processes. So I've got a whole book. It's actually called Uptime Elements. I believe that the Uptime Institute bought it out now. It was through Reliability Web, but there's a box. It comes with all these different books, and the Uptime Elements. It looks like a periodic table, and there's specific elements associated with each book, and it goes through all the different steps for mitigation. It is a certification program. You do have to take a test. It is not the easiest thing to partake in, but it's not the most difficult either. I'd say it's kind of middle of the road as far as certifications. And I think it's a very good certification. It's very well known in the industry that we're in because it specifically focuses on risk mitigation and specific leadership techniques. It's very engaging. So there's a lot of community conversation that happens. There are CU credits that you need to renew it. So it's a good certification. I was very fortunate to be able to go through it and to do what I had to do to make it happen. What's the next one you got? Probably the CDCTP.
Yes, sir. Certified Data Center Technician Professional.
Yeah, yeah. So I took that course through CNET. They have several different ones. They have a management professional, technical or technician professional. They have a design professional. There's several different ones. They actually have a master's degree program, which I was looking into partaking, but it's 3 years and it's going to take some time. Plus, it's a little bit costly to do the whole certification. But one of the first to come out with a certification program for specifically the data center industry. The technician professional one focused primarily on the more critical infrastructure, MEP side of things, and the technical aspects of it. So what to look at on different critical pieces of equipment, very technical focus on data centers itself. So it went through a lot of the different types of equipment, how it operates, what a cohesive operation looks like through a data center, how the pieces work together, what to look for, different things like that. Great certification. They did it because it was through CBRE. They gave you actually a baseline test to see where you ranked, and then they filled in. You took basically sub courses to fill the gaps with what you didn't know. Fortunately for me, I took the CCAM. That was the name of the test, and I passed it right away because I already had so much experience. So I just passed it and I got the certification, which was great. But I did go back and go through some of the courses because I was still familiarizing myself more with HVAC. I'm an electrical really big background, and it helped a lot. It was very good courses, very structured, give you a lot of information. Next one is DCCA.
Yes, sir. That is
DCCA is
nice.
a entry-level certification. It's through Schneider's website, Schneider University. It is free. All the material on there is free. They have a DCCA and they have I think it's called a DEM or a CEM. I think it's a CEM program. The CEM is design. It's just data center design. So it's all the different elements. Lot of information in both of those programs. A lot of information. To get the certification, you have to pay a fee, and you get the certification if you pass. DCCA is not very difficult to pass. It's a great entry level certification. So I tell a lot of people out there that are younger, getting in the industry, hey, you think this might be something you want to do, or you want to learn more about the industry? That's a great course to take because it tells you all the basics of data centers, how it works, the functionality, why it's there. Very entry level stuff, but a great certification nonetheless. And then the last one is the Lean Six Sigma. So Lean is one standard. Six Sigma is another standard. I took a program that kind of combined the two. Six Sigma has to deal with um, process improvement and efficiency. Primarily, it's efficiency. I can't remember the figure off my top of my head, but it's like 0.999999%, right? It's six nines, right, of efficiency, meaning out of whatever, a million units, right? 0.99999% are going to be perfect. You're going to have like one out of that whatever percentage, right? That's not going to be perfect. So lean takes it to another level. Lean is very military based thought process where it's you want the same efficiency, but you want to do it with the most minimal amount of resources as you possibly can. So it's understanding how to take that efficiency and then look at where you can streamline the process so you're not wasting energy or effort, right? And that's why it's very military focused, right? Because if you had a core specialized ops unit that had to go in and execute something, right? What is the minimal amount of manpower, equipment? What do they have to have with them to get the job done successfully, safely, and return, right? Without excess gear, excess waste, maybe losing somebody along the way, like that thought process,
Gotcha.
right? So it's very structured and strategic on how they build out what those mean. And the belt is your experience with it. So there's a white belt is very entry level, it's just basic understanding. Green belt, and then yellow belt is the next one, and then green belt, and then black belt, and then you can get black belt with degrees. I know you're into martial arts yourself, right? So it's kind of you
Yes.
get the degrees, right? And when you get a master in something in a black belt, you actually go and you perform a project and you obtain that level of certification. I only did the yellow belt. I wanted to have a real strong understanding of what the mentality and what these processes look like, so I could have that mindset when I'm looking at risk evaluation and different things that I was doing. Will I pursue a green and black belt? Maybe one day, when I find time to do it. I think it's a fantastic program, especially when you are in critical space or maybe industrial manufacturing, stuff like that. Those are great certifications for that type of mindset. So that's kind of the layout of all those. I know there's a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
uh, and why do I put them at the end of my name? A lot of people started doing that. I thought it was a great way to catch attention on some of the specific certifications. So I started doing it with some of them, just to kind of show some strategic things that I was able to accomplish. You don't have to do it, it depends on where you're at in your career. But
Yeah, it makes
but I
sense
did
though
it
if
for
you
quite a
want to
while, and it just
get attention. Yeah, for sure. To
stuff.
get the employers or whoever to notice you, because everybody's out there swinging for the same top dog positions, So got to set yourself out.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
with all these
absolutely.
certifications, I'm gonna throw the links in the description of the video. So if anybody's interested and they want to pursue them, they can. How would you say
Yeah.
that these affected and helped you along your career path?
Oh, I think it 100%. Um, I coming out of my John Balsamo got me into the DCCA right early on. he advised. I asked him what, and this is going back 20 years, right? I
How'd
said,
you
well,
know him?
I was working for him. So
Oh,
I
okay.
so how I got into the industry, I don't know if we ever talked about that, really,
Uh,
how I got into that. So DSA Encore um, was the original company. It was founded by Steve Freeman and Rudy Kraus, and Rudy actually sits on my board today on the Empire State chapter. But Steve, it's a very interesting story. Steve's son was best friends with my brother, and they were playing Pop Warner football. I mean, this is a long time ago, and um, they, my dad and Steve ended up having a conversation on the football field, and they were talking about the kids, and they said, he said, "What's your other son doing? He's getting close to graduating, or did graduate, or whatever." And he goes, "Oh, he's not really sure. He was thinking maybe he thinks he wants to go and become an electrician because he went to school. I went to school for secondary at chem at Westcon, and I couldn't. It wasn't for me, man. It was like high school all over again. I was like, this is not. I don't want. I'm not into this. So I took a semester off. I was working the whole time in the family business. My father owned a dry cleaners, and I was very hands on. I was always that way. So I was thinking I was going to go be an electrician. It's a good trade. I had confidence with electricity. It didn't scare me. And so I started pursuing a program, and I was going to go to, I think, New England Tech is the name of the school at the time. And so he was talking to Steve, and Steve said, why don't you have him come talk to me? And we knew Steve was successful. We didn't know what he did, right? We had no idea what the company did, but we knew he was a successful guy. And so my dad being that way was like, yeah, absolutely. I'm have a make, a phone call with you, whatever. So long story short, I met with Steve. He kind of laid out that he was trying to build this field service technician program within DSA Encore. At the time, they were remanufacturing critical power equipment and all different types of units, right? UPS systems, HVAC systems, everything. And so he said, why don't you have him come? He could talk to one of my field engineers, get an idea of what's going on. That's when I met Bobby Hobbs. So Bobby was
Bobby
ex-Navy,
Hobbs.
right? Ex-Navy, brilliant engineer,
Yep.
great
Yep.
guy. And I met him before I even enrolled in my electronics program. I went and sat with him. He goes, yeah, you could have a good career. And he was the number two technician at the time. I mean, he just started. They were just starting to build this.
What year was
So
this?
I talked to John. This was 2006.
Okay.
2006. And so I I talked to him, I talked to John Balsam a little bit, and I said, what is the program? What do I need to learn? What are the core principles you need me to learn? So then I started researching around. I found a program in Brantford. It was Connecticut School of Electronics. It's now Porter and Chester. It got bought. The program's a little different. But at the time, it was taught by a Connecticut licensed engineer who specialized in low voltage and circuitry and all that kind of stuff. And so I took the program and came back, was working part-time. I was working 3 different jobs and working at DSA, rebuilding HVAC equipment. I had to kind of work my way up the ladder and then prove myself. And the whole time, Steve told me initially, he goes, listen, I'm not going to I'll give you an opportunity. I'm not just going to give you a job. You got to prove that you can do this, that you can execute on your education, come in, you're a team player, you're working with everybody. Like I had stepping stones and I had some conflicts along the way, even within the organization. So I had to learn. It was a learning curve to get into what I needed to do. But once I satisfied what I had to do, got my certification, and then I started working with John Balsamo directly on the electrical side. That's when I really started working and saturating myself into that. And they knew I was the guinea pig for Uptime Institute, right? Or Quality Uptime University.
Mhm.
That didn't exist, that we were creating that with me. So we built the program out, what the specifics of what I needed to learn. In my final exam, I had to rebuild a 4x500 MG 6000 system fully to the frame, rebuild everything, rewire harnesses for the cap assemblies, install everything, program it, commission test it, load bank it, then bring it to the field and deploy it. That was after I did that, they said, all right, you're ready to go in the field. So that's when I went out in the field. It took about a year to get out into the field. I mean, by year 3, I was running the GE division. We were selling GESG units, and I was running that division. I was doing startups all over the country. Um, I was, basically factory certified on Liebert, MG, GE, Power, PDI. I mean, you name it. If we touched it, I saw it. I touched it. I ripped it apart. So it was great exposure. And so that's kind of how I got into that industry. It's a little bit by accident, definitely a little bit of luck, I'd say. Um, but it's funny when I talk to people that have been in the industry as long as I've been in, 20 years plus, everybody has such a unique story. They kind of fell backwards into it and then just ran with it. Um, and I mean, I ran into Steve now, I run into him at trade shows and he's doing some equity investing stuff. And I sold the company years later, became Quality Uptime, right? And they kept the service division and then Quality Uptime just sold, right? And they did really well. And when I talked to Steve, he's blown away. He never thought, he thought I'd have a good career as a field engineer. He never thought I'd be sitting where I'm sitting now. And he said, you took a lot of initiatives and I did eventually go back to school. I met with VP at the time, one of the VPs, and I said, how do I get where you're sitting? Do I have to go back to school? What should I do? And he goes, no, you're on a good path. I don't think you need to do it. And I enrolled the next day. I enrolled and I went back. I said, I need some kind of business credentials. And I was smart enough to figure out that I needed to fill the gaps, right? I still don't hold a full degree. I never got my full bachelor's, but I went and took every financial course, accounting, finance, business, tort law, all kinds of specifics about business. I learned what I had to learn to make myself valuable and put myself in a different role. And then I created that senior sales engineering role. That didn't exist. So Quality Uptime never had internal sales engineers.
Right.
And I sat down with the executive board and I said, listen, you bring somebody that has technical know-how into this back office and they can speak the language that the clients want to hear. That's a deadly weapon in a sales team. And if you got somebody that has the rapport and that can speak well and communicate with these people from a sales approach, it's going to be a home run. And it was. We were very successful. We were responsible for a lot of expansion within the company because of that. So it was great. And that kind of transferred over to what I'm doing today. I went back into ops and just worked my way up the ladder. Kept building those relationships, super important.
Absolutely. It's a tough thing to do, to start out as a technician and climb up the way you've climbed. It's amazing, but people can do it. It's not like a ones in a million. There's these positions are open everywhere. There's like you said, there's so many holes to fill, and if people just apply themselves. And the problem is, what I see is there's a lot of people who just want to. They just show up to work for the paycheck. That's it. They don't care about anything else. They don't want to learn. They don't want to apply themselves. They don't want to, like you said, network.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
Really interesting. Just funny tidbit here. So
yeah.
2006, you said you were doing that. In 2009, do you remember a company that you might have did jobs for? Unity International Group?
Yeah, yeah, Unity. Yeah.
Yeah. So I used to call Sheila Purcell and say, "Hey, I need a person to go over here."
That's funny. That's funny. Okay.
That's how we knew each other
This
before.
is this is what happens, man. You have those kind of conversations all the time. Oh, did you work at this building? Oh yeah, oh, we did this and that. I mean, I've crossed paths with people and I've sat at dinners and it's like, oh, you were in the room next to me while we were commissioning the UPS. It's just a small world, man. It's a small world. It's a big industry, but it's a small world. It's
It
crazy.
sure is. And so when you go into all these different jobs, when you're a field person, you build a big network, even if you don't try, just because you're going from place to place and you're meeting different people every day. Were there any
Yeah.
places in particular where you're like, I have a job here and I'm like excited to go because you know the people there and they're just fun to be around?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was I don't want to toot my own horn, but I was a good engineer. I was good.
Yeah.
My brother learned a lot. It was because of the education I got, right, working with John. And we had such a good support system in the field, right? Bobby and all these great engineers. Will Flores. I mean, Bill was a brilliant guy. All these guys, right? They all have the industry knowledge. And so we went out and we did jobs. We had a reputation where we walked on the site and the engineers, I mean, I remember going to Digital Realty in at 111 8th Avenue. We get off the elevator on the second floor. The guys would see us come out. They'd be waiting in the lobby, and they're doing this. They're like, "We're going home early," like because they knew, they were like, "Oh man, the A team's here," right? They knew it was going to get fixed. So you build that relationship with the client. It makes work fun. I remember you sent me that question set, right? And I think you were asking me something about like the balance, right? In working, and it's because, listen, field engineering is a hard, that can be a hard life. You travel a lot, especially when you're with a small organization. You got to be aggressive. You got to travel a lot. You're on the road. You're working crazy hours. A lot of these windows are 2 a.m. start time. You got to drive 5 hours, get there, set up, get through security. Security could take an hour to get through, right? Depending on the site. So to be able to go on site and see smiling faces during an emergency situation is always a good thing, right?
Yeah.
It brightens your day right out of the gate. They're not screaming at you as you're coming through the door. And man, I've had it that way, and I've had it the complete opposite, right? Where they are screaming. They're just harping on us to get something fixed. So, but to your point, right? I had, recently I've had interviews in my career, a couple, little things, conversations, high level conversations. And I get asked, how do you handle, stressful situations, right? How do you handle being in front of a board and presenting and like that kind of stuff? And I'm like, I've been presenting since I was 18, 16, 17, 18 years old when I got in the field. I had to stand in front of an executive team for Facebook, for digital, Capital One, Chase Bank. I mean, just big financials, right? And I had to explain to them why their system failed, how long it's going to take to get it back up, why we don't have parts, how we're going to get it there, what we're going to do to mitigate the problem in the meantime, with a level head, keeping them calm, and then staying as sharp as you can in a very technical environment where you're hands on, right? I said, in a lot of ways, I was better trained than any executive you're going to pull out of an MBA course. I can promise you that.
Well, that's a great point, because most of us have been there, right?
Yeah,
And I never even thought of it that way. But you're absolutely right. I've been just where you were talking about, and it's stressful when you have to stay sharp, and they're not going to take it easy on you either. They're going to take digs. They're going to, you
yeah,
know, and they might bring in somebody who does know what they're talking about, because you're talking to financial people, and they'll test you to make sure you know what you're talking about,
yeah, yeah, exactly. And so, you know, to your point, right? Can you translate from the field and move into an executive role? Absolutely. You totally can do it. It's nothing happens unless you take the risk. The biggest thing I'll say is the going back to school for me was a critical element. And I'm not a big school guy, right? I don't even get me started on where I think this country needs to go with reform in our public education system. I've got my own thoughts on that, mainly because of my career and my trajectory through school and how it worked for me. So I've got concerns. I've got kids. I've got concerns about that and what I want, how I want them to learn, their capacity for learning, where I think they would benefit from things. But um, you know, you just have to be strategic in that. You got to realize you have to take a very humble approach. You got to realize what you're missing, what the gaps are in your own knowledge base. If you are not strong financially and you're trying to get into a role that deals with financial elements, ROIs, sales elements, components, commission structure, pricing matrices, you need to go back to school to understand how that works, how to build and negotiate on contracts, what terms and conditions mean, all this kind of stuff. It can be fairly basic, but you need to understand the preliminaries, because any company you go into is going to have a trajectory to train you and teach you different elements of their business, right? And every business works differently. Every company you go into has a different way of doing things. So you have to still learn that approach. But if you can't speak the language and you can't understand the fundamentals, it gets harder. Now, I'm not going to say it's impossible. I know entrepreneurs that don't even have a high school diploma who are unbelievable at finance and investments. And I mean, they fell into a world very early on that they had to learn from the school of hard knocks. And that fell to a lot of mentorship and stuff like that. But you can do it. And I tell these students, right, don't get pigeonholed if you went to school to be an electrician. It doesn't mean you have to be an electrician your whole life. Don't get pigeonholed, right? One of the biggest examples I've talked to is a lot of kids coming out of school for engineering, and they go design or they go commissioning, right? That's the two prime focuses. And I tell them, if you want to do design, go do commissioning for a couple years first, because you're going to get a world of information working in the field with other engineers, and with you're going to see the right and wrong way to design things. It's going to change your perspective entirely when you actually are doing the drawings and building stuff out. And everybody that I know who is a design engineer that took that path or is a commissioning engineer, and I know so many people. I mean, Bala, AKF. I could go down a laundry list of engineering companies, and I'm very tight with a lot of these guys who've worked in the industry for years. They all agree. They all say, go and get your hands in front of those pieces of equipment, touch them, feel them, look at them, see how the different designs are built out, and learn what the right way to do things is, before you go and design stuff. We've all been there, right? You go to change a cap assembly and you're like, who the heck designed this? Where did they put the bolt here? And the cables are running over the top. Like, yeah,
I gotta get a
yeah.
bendy thing for my ratchet.
You need a 6-way freaking, to get around the back. It's just crazy stuff. So yeah, that's kind of where my head's at.
No, that's a good take, suggesting that people go and do the one side before going to the other. That's definitely interesting. That's definitely the right way to do it. And I think in those schools, they should have some, like live or simulated live, like, all right, you're going to commission this and then you're going to design this, and then you're going to do it backwards after you've done one and the other, and then see how that changes your perspective. That would be great. you
Yeah,
know
100%.
you should revolutionize. You should build your own online school and just
Yeah, I've had discussions with some of these trade schools, but it's and I've pushed this too. I've said this on a couple panels. Back at DCD, I actually mentioned it. I gave a little story to the crowd, and I was like, "You guys, I just have to tell this story because it's amazing." I went back to the school I graduated from as an alum, and I'm in a high level role. And I said to them, I'd be willing to work with you guys to develop a data center operators curriculum and have certifications. And to my knowledge, there's only 2 schools right now that are doing that. One's in Virginia and one I think is in Texas, that are trade driven operator school programs for data centers.
do you have the names of those schools just for the pod?
I don't have them now, but I can get them.
Okay, I'll research them and I'll put them in the description. Okay,
Yeah,
sorry, I didn't intend to interrupt.
one's in Virginia, one's in Texas. But I reached out to the CEO of the school that bought the school I went to, told him I was an alum, said I'd love to talk to the students. Well, he connected me with the director of that particular school's the director of ops, right, for that school. And I kind of talked with her what I wanted to talk about with the students. She could not see the correlation between what the kids were learning in the HVAC and electrical program and the data center. She just couldn't connect the dots. And I'm like, she goes, well, you're a data center, you deal with data. And I'm like, oh God. I just was like, no. I'm like, so I need to present this program to you, not the students, because the instructors and the directors of these schools don't even realize it. Right. So I could talk to the students so I'm blue in the face. And that's great that they get the knowledge, right? But if we don't have the school curriculums changed and the mindset of the directors and the people in charge of these schools, if we don't change that mindset, it's not going to push through to these students. So, and it was amazing. I went out, she did finally allow me to come. She didn't even sit through the program that I put together, which was just, I was so
Mind
disheartening.
blowing.
I was like, you gotta be kidding me. And I said something to the CEO. Told him afterwards, I'm like, I took my time to come here and it's for the students, but I really think the students would have benefited if the director of the program would have sat in on this and understand what we were trying to push here. And I was kind of disheartened by that. And by the end of the program, I had the instructors coming out in the parking lot going, how do I get in this industry? They were like, this sounds amazing. Like, you know, you can make good money as an operator. You know what I mean? If you got skill sets. So, it's a mindset change, it's just a mindset change.
And
And
it's really commendable that you do things like this. Like you took it on your own initiative and you reached out to the CEO of the school and you tried to make that happen and tried to make changes and you're trying to change the world. You're trying to make it a better place. That's how many of
um,
these organizations are you a member of? How many 24/7 by chapters, 7 by 24 chapters are you in?
so I'm a member of New England. I'm a member of Metro. I'm on the board and director of communications for the Empire chapter.
That's the only
Um,
one I'm a member of.
Yeah, oh, the Empire, yeah. And
Yeah.
Metro is a great chapter. And I would do, I mean, purely just the Christmas party alone is mind blowing. But you came to our shooting event, right? That's our shooting event kicks butt, man.
Oh
It's
yeah,
awesome.
that's amazing.
It's
I'm
a good
gonna
time.
throw a. I'll talk to. Are you authorized to say if I can? I can throw a link for the 7 by 24 on this
Oh
and
yeah,
a
yeah,
picture.
100%,
Yeah,
100%. Yeah, yeah. Put a link in there. Reach out. We got the LinkedIn page,
yeah.
which I manage, and we got a lot of posts. We got a regional event coming up, which is going to be a great event. That's going to be actually all the Northeast chapters. So you're going to have Virginia, you're going to have Philly, you're going to have Metro, Empire, Western New York, all of us, New England. We're all going to be on there, and it's at the Borgata, and the date is let me just verify. I want to say it's October 6th and 7th. And yeah, it's at the Borgata again this year. We're going back to the Borgata. But that's a pretty awesome event. It's regional, so you get a large group of people. And really good speakers, really good topics, a lot of AI focus on that event. There's a lot of posts out there on LinkedIn, so we're gonna keep posting that stuff. They're looking for sponsorships, stuff like that. So yeah, for sure. If I can throw that tag in there, that's great stuff.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
then and our shooting event is coming up. That's in October, and that's going to be awesome. That's going to be an awesome. That sells out every year, and every year it gets bigger and bigger. And this is definitely going to be our biggest event. It's going to be awesome. So I'm excited for that stuff. Um,
Yeah,
so
unfortunately, I'm moving to Florida, so I'm gonna miss it all this year. We're
oh no,
our house is being sold as we speak. I got people looking at it every day.
oh man. Well, there's chapters down south too. Look it up and stay engaged, man. There's stuff going on all over the place.
Yeah, I'm definitely
Oh
gonna join the local chapter when I get down there.
yeah, no, for sure, for sure. Yeah, no, it's good, man. That's just got to stay agile with everything. Adaptability is
Absolutely.
the biggest. That's the biggest word right now in this industry. Adaptability. So I don't know. How are we doing on time? What else you want to talk about? Anything specific?
Let's go off script here a little bit and give me some good days in the field or some good, some bad, and some crazy.
Oh man. Oh, this is good. This is good. Uh, let's see. All right. Okay. I'll give you. So I really got a really good day in the field story, and it's actually how my brother got into this industry. My brother's 3 years younger than me. I mean, you met my brother, I think, right? Jeff Peterson. He works for Veritiv now.
Okay.
Uh, he's doing really well at Veritiv. He's a field engineer and he's in charge of a region in the Northeast, and he's doing great. He's doing really good stuff.
Nice.
But he was a little lost when he was younger, probably about 16. He's getting close to graduating high school, like me, not a big academic, very hands-on kind of guy, and didn't really know what he wanted to do. And so I started working in the field, and I was just starting in my career, but I had pretty much solidified my position. I'd proven myself. I was in the field now for like 2 years. And I came home one day and he's sitting there, he's playing video games. And I was like, Jeff, you know what? Why don't you just come with me to work? Just come with me to work today. I got an easy job, right? We're going to go up to one of the Connecticut campuses. I got to change a fan on a Power 9315. Now, this is back before the days of you got to shut everything off, no exposed power. You can't, you know what I mean? Like live fan changes was like, you can't do that nowadays, right? But back then, I was able to pull the dead front off with it online, and just it was a front fan right on the base, so I could unplug it, disconnect it, plug a new one in, put the dead front back on. That was it. Day was done. Alarm went away. Walk out the door. Right. That was my whole day. And I said, it was the only job I had on the schedule for the day. So I said, why don't you come with me? We'll do this job. You'll see what I do. And then we'll go get lunch. I'll take you to whatever the heck the rest. I can't remember the name of the restaurant, but they had this stack of onion rings, right, that they give you. And so he was like,
Red
all
Robin?
right, I'll go. Red Robin's right down the road. So he goes, I'll go buy lunch, right? I'll buy you lunch. And I got him with the stack of onion rings. He goes, well, that sounds good. All right, I'll go with it. So he goes, and we went. We were in there for 20 minutes, man. I pulled the dead front, I changed the fan, I closed it up. I said, all right. He's sitting on the chair. He's looking at his phone, whatever. I said, all right, we're done. He goes, what do you mean you're done? I said, we're done. That was it. He goes, that's all you had to do today for the whole day. He goes, how much do you make? He goes, and I said, yeah, man, it's not, listen, there are days where it's difficult, but there are days like this where this is it. And I got the whole rest of the day to myself. And he goes, all right. He goes, I'm in. How do I do this? Like, what do I got to do? Right. He starts, so, I pulled some strings. I had some conversations with Steve. Steve, he was best friends with Steve's son. So he was like, I know your brother. I don't know about this, right? He's like, but if you want to put his neck on the line, whatever, you're responsible and whatever, I came home and I grabbed him by the shirt. I'm like, if you screw up, like let's get, but listen, again, it's network and relationships, right? And I knew that if he was given an opportunity, he'd step up, and he did. He stepped up in a big way. He was a very large part of quality uptime and their growth and strategy. And we bled for that company. We did a lot of crazy jobs, right? And so here's an example. That was a great day, right? Watched a career start right from there.
Hold on, before you start
Now
that,
I'll
I
go
just
to the
want to throw
opposite.
my key line.
Yeah.
Hold on. Since you said it about the finishing in 10 minutes, I've said this in every podcast so far. The best and worst part of the field service life is you go home when the job's done.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, so to that point, right? When I started dating my wife years and years ago, I was in the field, and I told her, she used to text me all the time, right? What time are you coming home? And my answer was always the same answer. I get home when I get home. If I give you a time, I will never be home by that time.
You'll jinx
It will
yourself.
always be long, right? I will literally shoot myself in the foot. So you
Yep.
never give a time. Bobby, we all have our superstitions, right? Bobby's was always leave one tool out. He always left a screwdriver out or a meter or something that had to get put away until that thing was online for at least a half an hour. He went and have a cigarette, and then he'd come back. Okay, now we can pack up and leave, right? I mean, it's just that's how it is. You're in the
Yep.
field. So, um, worst job ever. This is my worst job ever. I've got several that I could pick from, but I got to say this is probably one that takes the cake. There's two. It's a competition between two of them. We had, man, oh man. So I'm gonna go with this. I'm gonna go with this one, and I'm not gonna say the client because I don't want to. But it was a big client, very large client, one of our biggest. We had a site where they had Power 9315 750s, and they were having problems with the inverter control boards. They were failing. Something was failing, and these units were blown to pieces. And it was happening after a capacitor replacement. So we would do a cap replacement. There would be a rev upgrade on the control boards. They would change the control boards. And if you know how it is sometimes working with powerware on site, it
You
can be a
lose the
little.
feedback signal and boom.
So what ended up happening was there's now a recall on these inverter control boards. Basically, the boards have to be of the same rev level. We were told that you could have the premier board here in the center as the master, and then the older revision boards in tandem. You can't do that. They all have to be the same rev level. So we didn't realize it at the time, whatever. So we went through this hassle where the unit was blowing up. So we went out, we did the cap change. You've seen these units. They're not easy to change the caps on. You got to take the whole assembly out, the inverter assembly, you got to take it down, weighs a ton, or you got to stand up on the fan deck and one by one do the
with
caps.
a little tiny screwdriver this big.
Yeah, exactly. Sit there. You can't. Everything's by hand. So it's a tedious job. You're in a loud environment. It's late. You're in a room with nothing, right? So we change the unit out, do the cap change. We go to turn it on. We've been there for a few hours to do this in the middle of the night, and we go to turn it on. The unit blows up
like a shotgun blast.
yeah. Boom, boom, boom,
IGBT,
right? Blown
boom,
everything, yeah, everything. So now we've got kits there to rebuild these things because this has happened a couple times. So we got to rip it apart and do it again, right? So now I'm there for a good stretch of time, and now I'm there for, probably about 14, 15 hours straight, just working. And the sun came up. It's already midday, right? So now we get done, and we're ready to. We got to rotate shifts because we've been there too long, right? So now we got another team of guys coming in. They're going to be there for the startup and just to finalize things. So they were rotating shifts with the site as well. So they had a little gap before they started up. So I finished everything. We got it all solidified, and we left. I don't usually like to leave when I've done the work. I usually like to be there to see this thing come online, but it was just too long of a timeline. So I left. I'm driving home. I'm in Massachusetts. It's about 2.5 hours to get home. It's midday, sun's up. It's starting to come down as I'm getting home. I'm exhausted. I get home. I lay my head on the pillow. Bring, phone goes off. Unit blew up again. The guys on site, they didn't have enough guys to do the full change out. They didn't have qualified people there. I had to get up, drink a pot of coffee, take a cold shower, and drive back to the site and do it all over again.
Oh man.
I was there. I did the whole installation again. And by the time, so now I'm standing on the fans. I've been up for like 30 hours at this point. I mean, at least 30 hours. And I'm standing on the fans. I'm doing the caps, and I'm having a conversation, and Bobby walks in, and then Bobby walks around the corner, and he comes over, and he's the replacement guy because they know I've been there a long time and whatever. So he comes up, and I said, yeah, I'm just talking to Frank over here or whatever. And he goes, you talking to who? I said, Frank, he's over there. He just walked around the unit. He goes, dude, there's no one in this room. He goes, you've been in this room by yourself for like 6 hours by yourself. I said, what? No, I got down. I ran around the unit in circles, and I'm looking for this guy. I was hallucinating having a full-on conversation with this guy because I was so sleepy. And I told Bobby, I'm like, Bobby, I could tell you everything that we just talked about. He goes, dude, you need to put a hoodie over your head and go in the hallway and take a nap. He goes, you need to just sleep for like an hour, like something. And he was not wrong. So I went out and I just closed my eyes for a little bit. And I woke up and I'm like, holy cow, it was like a reset on life. But that was one of my worst. That was one of my worst jobs.
Sounds like
just short manpower. The other one I had, I lived very close to our central office, so we had a lot of spare parts and units, and we pull parts and stuff from there. And we had an 8,000 unit that had caps preformed in the factory, but they were in assemblies and they were in a unit. They were using the test. We had a unit blow in Chicago, and so I get called, hey, pull the decks out, box them up. We're gonna have somebody come pick them up and curry them out to Chicago. It's okay. Friday at 1 o'clock. Friday at 1 o'clock. All right, not an unreasonable request. It's Friday at 1 o'clock. That sucks, right? But right. I could get that done pretty quick. I could pull them out, box them up, set them for the courier. We're good. Not too bad of a thing. Not very an atypical thing, right? You're a field guy. That just happens. You're close to the office. You get pulled for shit like that. So, all right, I do that. I box it up. I get it ready. So now I get a call from Bill. Bill says, hey, he goes, you know that phone call. Hey,
yep. Mr. Hoyer.
Hey, I'm like, oh no. He goes, listen, I need you to drive it to the airport. Just drive it to the airport and put it on a plane, right? He goes, whatever. So I'm like, all right. So I get in the car, I'm driving to Bradley, and so I'm like halfway there. I don't have clothes. I got nothing with me, right? I'm just headed there. He goes, hey, I need you to get on the
Get on
plane.
the plane.
He goes, but you don't have to go to the site. I just need you to carry the parts on the plane. They won't put them on the plane unless somebody's there with him, whatever, for insurance, whatever the heck he said, right? I'm like, oh my God. All right. He's like, don't listen, you go, you get something to eat. Don't worry about it. You fly back. I know it's a lot, whatever. All right. I get on the plane. I'm calling my girlfriend. I'm like, listen, whatever it is, what it is. Like, I got to do whatever. So I get on the plane. I fly out. So now I land. I get off the thing. The guy is there at the terminal, and he goes, all right. We start loading the caps in his car, which, I mean, what a cap deck looks like. Trying to get through security with 8 boxes that look like bombs on the X-ray machine. That's a wonderful experience in and of itself.
Oh,
So I got them all stacked up. I got 2 carts. I'm wheeling them out. I get them in the car for the guy, and the guy looks at me and he goes, all right, so we got to go over to Cermak. Got to get this done. And I'm like, what? I'm like, I'm not coming. He goes, oh, no, we need help. We need to get this done. This is like, we're behind and whatever. Man, I got there, and this team just did not know what they were doing. I mean, they had one guy that relatively knew what he was doing. The other person had no clue. I stripped and rebuilt 3 units in the amount of time it took them to take the input filters out on the 8000s. And I was like, oh my God, this is why they sent me there. So I pulled the caps out, we got them in, we did the change out, we got the units back up. The sun's coming up. I'm walking out of the building. It's the next day. It's like maybe 7:30 in the morning. I got a flight at 9:30. I shot over to O'Hare, got on the plane, slept on the plane, got home. I mean, it was but listen, field service engineer life, dude. This is what we did to make shit happen.
It's not always this bad, everybody. It's not always. This is rare. This is a rare case.
It is rare. It is. Listen, this was different times. This was 20 years ago. This was small company trying to make a name, right?
Yep.
And they were smart enough to dedicate the time to me for me to build myself, right? And so that was the offset, right? I felt a level of ownership in that company, so I could help them build, and we did great things, right? And the clients love that. I mean, you'd say that story to a client, like, this is the level of support that you're getting.
Yep.
It doesn't happen anymore, right? To your point, it doesn't
Rare.
happen.
It's rare. Yeah.
So that's the mindset, But listen, man, it's been fun. The field was crazy times, but it was fun. But I did know at an early age I didn't want to do it forever.
Yeah, and it was different times back then too. Like you said, I remember you said you pulled a dead front panel off of a live unit. We used to do that for regular maintenance on a semi-annual at some companies. That's just the way they did business back then. But now you're not taking the dead front panel off a live cabinet, That would and you're not staying up 30 hours either.
Exactly. And that's where, circling right back to what we started talking about, right? That's where I feel AI has a place, right? Because we can set up sensors within these units to take the measurements that we knew how to take under live conditions, right? Voltage drops on inductor, right? What does your ripple voltage look like on your bus? What's your firing sequence circuits look like on an inverter, right? You don't have to loop a CT on a live unit with 100% load to get your pulses, right? You can have something configured within the unit that measures these things, and if it sees a variation, it tells you. So that's where I think the manufacturers are starting to get smarter, and they're starting to implement some of these things.
Some of them already have it. Like one company I worked for, Pillar, it didn't monitor it all the time, but you can load in a program they called it a DAC box, where it's just software, and it'll say, all right, I'm going to measure this point, this point, and this point, and then give me the results. But with AI, it could know enough to, like, you can send the unit an email and say, check this point and give me give me the results. You don't even have to get out of bed, like troubleshooting from your sleep, you know. That's the future. But you still need a human.
Where we're headed, man. But exactly, you need somebody that knows what it's supposed to look like and what it's not supposed to look like. And if that thing starts to go rogue and start generating some false data or not or manipulating the data points or what, you got to catch it. You got to catch it quick, right? Because it could cause a problem. So it takes some expertise. And again, it's is AI going to offset jobs? 100% it's going to offset jobs. But it goes back to that one word, adaptability, right? So if you're doing something now and you're an expert in that field and you know what you're doing, adapt what you're doing to work with AI, not against it, and figure out how it can benefit you, how it can influence what you're doing to make it better. That's it. That's what it comes down to. So yeah, it's good stuff, man. What else you got for me? How much time we got?
We've
You know
already
what time? I
been
don't even know.
we're an
You got
hour
me
and a
sitting here.
half almost. We're gonna have to do this again
Okay.
because this was great. I'm having a great time and getting to know you a bit better and getting to
Oh
know
yeah,
some
no. Listen,
stories.
man. When you start talking about field stuff and careers, and when you've got the amount of years that we've got in this industry, my God, the stories could just flow. Uh, it's crazy. But I love what you're doing with this. I love the fact that you wrote a book. I for those of you who don't know, I met Frank. Where did I meet you at an industry event? Was it a 7 by
Yes,
24 event that
seven
we
by
met
24.
initially?
Yep, a couple of years ago, 7 by 24. It was at
We
the first gun shoot that I
a
went
couple
to. Yeah,
years ago we met. Yeah, yeah, oh, that's right. You're right. Yeah, at the shooting event. Yeah, so we met. Frank was working for Quality Uptime, former company I worked for. We were hitting it off and having some conversations. And you came across as just a super professional guy, really like straight edge, sharp, right in your element in the industry, confident. You knew where your skills were at, you knew where you were headed, and I mean, you're killing it. You're doing great stuff, man. You wrote a
appreciate it, man.
book on UPS, which is awesome,
I got to send you a copy, by the way. Let me make sure I do.
right? You published that. Oh yeah, dude, send me a copy. I would love to read it. And yeah, I mean, just great stuff, right? And I've thought for years about writing a book, and I've talked to a couple companies, and I will probably pick your brain on what that process looks like at some point, because I think that my career path is really warrants putting something on paper, because it's such a unique experience that I had, and all these stories
100%.
that I could share, right? Stuff we've dealt with in the past and how the world's changed. But no, I love what you're doing with that. I love that you got the podcast going. That's why I was very excited to jump on and chat with you. And listen, I hopefully I've got some big stuff in the works too. And we can talk about that next time, hopefully.
Yeah,
But
for sure. Let's definitely let's get it on the
you
books
never
like maybe
know.
next month or something.
Yeah, that sounds good.
So one last thing I want to throw a plug for I started a business, me and my wife. My wife was a headhunter. You met her, right? She was at one of the events. She was a headhunter for
Yes,
many
yeah,
years for Northwestern Mutual, and she did a really good job. She made she got the growth award every year that she was there, and so we started a small headhunting company, mostly just her. I'm using a lot of AI tools, and I'm building some AI tools as well to like do some data retrieval and some automatic responding and stuff like that to kind of like lighten the load. So she's not doing cold calls; she'll be doing warm calls. And basically, it's going to like message people and say, "Hey, you interested?" And if they are, when they respond, she gets the note to call them. But anyway,
yeah,
I'm going to throw a little link for my business on here to see if we can help people because my main goal and the reason I even did this is my job sent me down to Virginia to a military hiring event and we were trying to pick up some people, which we did. We got one guy from that event, so it was worth it. But when I was down there and I was helping these guys getting out of the military find work, I felt like this is amazing. This I got out of the military and I got into Schneider Electric. It was MGE at the time, and I was like, this is exactly how I can give back, like the way you're giving back and doing all these things, and you're making me like I need to do more. Like I need to do more to help this. But uh, I wanted to help people find jobs. So I have the industry knowledge. I have the right questions to ask, and my wife has the skill set to talk to people on the phone and get them to want to come work somewhere. So together we can hopefully do some good, just like the good you're doing, sir. You're doing an amazing job. It's an honor that you're on my pod, and it's always good to see you. It's always fun. We always have a good a good laugh, and
Hey,
yeah, I
man.
look forward to doing this again.
Yeah. No,
Last
absolutely. I
question.
appreciate the opportunity. Yeah, yeah, yeah. What do
What
you
would
got?
you tell your younger self if you were starting your career over? I'm sorry, I knew I just kind of jumped on you there, but I think there's a bit of a delay
No,
and
it's
my internet's a little unstable here.
so what I would say is trust in yourself. Um,
Good. It's golden.
keep your ears open, keep your mouth closed. Just soak it up. Just be a sponge. When you're in a room and I surround yourself with people who are way superior to you. A lot of people I feel like get very timid. They don't want to be in a room where they're the weakest link. That's the best room to be in. When you're the weakest link, you got nowhere to go but up, man. All you got to do is listen, and you're going to get so much knowledge thrown at you. And my early days, my biggest problem, my biggest challenge, because I was so young when I got in this industry, right? I was very knowledgeable and I had a tremendous mentor. But what that led to was I was the expert on a lot of these sites at a very young age. I mean, 18, 19 years old, I'm going to a site and I have to dictate what happens with this critical equipment, this $1 million installation. And I'm getting looked at like, what does this young kid know? Right. And I'm starting to get questioned. So I started questioning myself.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't until I was in the field for a couple years where I realized, wow, I really know my stuff. Like I know what I'm doing. So once I came to terms with that and had the confidence going into these jobs, it was like a different world. Like I didn't go in there anymore and start asking permission. I said, listen, this is how it's going to be because I'm representing my client and it's going to be done right. And when that happened, man, that's when I really started taking off and realizing the potential. And so you got to take risks. You don't learn anything unless you take risks. And you fail. If you fail, it's a lesson. Every one of my guys, every team that I've ever led, I've always said, you embrace every moment, the good and the bad. Doesn't matter whether or not you take on something and you do good or you take on something and you fail. And I try to do a lot of that in a controlled fashion with my team. I put them in scenarios where it's a test, where they're gonna get outside their comfort zone. But they're either gonna really do well or they're gonna learn a lot. So either way, it's a win. And that's
Right.
the approach I with them, right? They're gonna learn or it doesn't matter. And that's how you know how people build themselves, right? And a great career is a journey. It's about the journey. It's not about the destination. Don't try to get to that, you know, C-suite executive level. Like I've been hunting for that my whole life, right? But I've very recently have come to terms with the fact that my career, from the time I worked at my father's dry cleaners in high school and just was miserable and didn't want to do it, didn't know what I went. Then I went and worked 3 jobs, worked at Home Depot, all this stuff I've done. Every single aspect of it, I soaked up as much as I could, and it was a learning. It was all learning, right? On my LinkedIn it says lifelong learner. There's a reason that's there. I take that mentality every single day as a lifelong learner, right? Perfect example is the last thing I'll leave you with. I got sucked into, we moved into our house about 7 years, 6 years ago. I got sucked into being a vice president of a water board, a water company. It's a community well system, 120 homes. It's a tax district. It has to be run by the community. It's volunteer basis. We get free water. I mean, we don't get anything for it, right? This thing was being run archaically. I mean, manually with a scribe notebook and like all kind. I mean, just it was a mess.
Like our
Well,
ancestors did.
it was bad. I mean, it could have been on tablets with a rock and a chisel. It
Chisel.
was that bad, right? So when the former president, he just recently passed away. I actually became the president and he became the treasurer within the last year and a half or so. In that year and a half, I have completely transformed this company. It is strategic. I use QuickBooks. Everything is documented. We have credit card processing. We've got monitoring systems on all the well pumps. The generator systems are up to spec. They're monitored. They're tested. We do run tests. I get alerts. I mean, I turn it into a critical operation because that's what I know. I looked at all the risks and I analyzed it. And I said, we're going to make this work efficiently, and we're going to make this work without anybody even thinking about it. It's just going to be automated. And it took about a year, but I got it to that point now. The board's up to date. And wow. So again, I didn't know anything about EIN and tax districts and credit card processing and business ownership and all. I had to learn this stuff. I had to do my research on the state and regulations and make phone calls. And so when I took the role originally, everybody asked me in the community, why do you do that? Why do you do it? It's a free education. I just got a free education and free water, right? I got an education on how to run a business strategically, scale it, make sure it's operating right, make sure we're following credentials and risk assessments, relationships with now the Department of Public Health, the state statute committee, the town clerk's office. Like, I have relationships now. That's not going to hurt me. It's only going to benefit my career and my everything, right? So that's my answer. And when I say that response to people, that's when the eyes open up and they go, huh. You know what I mean? It's all perspective. It's all on how you look at things. So that's the way I'll close it out. I think that's a good way to end it. But this was awesome, man. This was great stuff. I think you're doing great stuff. Continue it. I will certainly recommend some people. I'll throw you some names, guys I know that would absolutely love to do this, that are just, man, I've got legends. I talk to people sometimes when I go to these events, and you sit down, you have conversations, and just the stories that some of these people can tell you, it's crazy. So this is awesome stuff. And I think we're, like you said, I think we're on the right track. We're doing the right thing. This industry is gonna make some serious impact in the next 5 to 10 years. We're gonna see some and we're already seeing it, but it's such a great industry. So I encourage anybody that wants to get into it, and by all means, post my contact info on there, on the thing, on the link. If anybody wants to reach out, have a conversation, I'm always open. I encourage people to do that. I think it's super important. So love it, man. Enjoy the rest of your bourbon. This was a good way to do it. I'm glad we gave me that couple minutes to go fill my glass. That was a good idea.
100%, buddy. Get the creative juices flowing. Cheers. Thanks again for joining. And I can't wait to see you on the next one, buddy. Take care.
Things meet fast lane, rebel cries. We're chasing the highs in the dark of night. Our lights collide, electric dreams, we're alive. Powerful and night, we're born to roam in the field service life, where the thrill of the chase cuts like a knife. We're born to rise in the fire and the strife. Gasoline veins, adrenaline high, breaking free from the ordinary life. We're the outlaws of the open road, no limits, no bounds, our spirits unfold. In the dark of night, our lights collide, electric dreams, we're alive. Powerful and night, we're born to roam in the field service life, where the thrill of the chase cuts like a knife. We're born to rise in the fire and the strife. Gasoline veins, adrenaline high, breaking free from the ordinary life. We're the outlaws of the open road, no limits, no bounds, our spirits unfold. In the dark of night, our lights collide, electric dreams, we're alive. Powerful and night, we're born to roam in the field service life, where the thrill of the chase cuts like a knife. We're born to rise in the fire and the strife. Burning rubber, reckless hearts, we're on the run. Freedom's call, we're never done. Our engines roar, our souls take flight in the field service life. life we ignite. In the dark of night, all the lights collide. Electric dreams we're alive. We're powerful and valid. We're born to roam in the field service life, where the thrill of the chase cuts like a knife. We're born to rise in the fire and the strife. In the shadows we'll find our way, through the darkness to a brand new day. Adrenaline rush, our hearts on fire in the thirst of life. We never tire. We're the rebels on the open road. We're the outlaws, our spirits unfold. We're powerful and bad. We're born to roam in the field service life, where the thrill of the chase cuts like a knife. We're born to rise in the fire and the strife. In the field service life, we'll never divide. In the fire and the strife, we'll thrive.